Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ben from My Sports Stop here with Richie Donnell. If you were like us, you spent the weekend glued to the television screen or the computer screen, watching the combine. And man, this was a great year for the scouting combine. Ton of talent.
Yeah, what impressed me the most is just how far, from maybe even 10 years ago, when we were a little younger, just starting to watch the combine, to see how athletic everybody is. And it's not just guys at the wide receiver spot or the corner spot that are running fast and jumping high. It's the D linemen and the O linemen as well. And I mean, that's credit to these guys, but it's just insane.
There's been a true evolution of the football athletes.
Yes. Yeah.
And, they're getting trained specifically, for these drills.
Right.
And that's what makes them so good. But let's go at quarterback right away. Who impressed you?
Yeah, I really liked Deshaun Watson. I think he answered a lot of the things that I was looking for. He kind of separated himself from the pack. For those of you that have seen our top 10 quarterback video, know that we both had him at number 1. And I thought that he separated himself from Trubisky a little bit. He threw the deep ball really well, and he hit just about every route that they threw at him there. Brad Kaya had a really good day as well, showing off the footwork. The one concern is going to be when the pocket starts to collapse around him. But footwork-wise and throwing the ball, I mean, everything was perfect. And Joshua Dobbs was somebody who jumped off.
Yeah, he did do well.
Yeah. Somebody that I didn't have in my original top 10, but somebody that I would probably put in there now after the combine, who had a really good day and probably rose his stock a little bit.
Not after what the YouTube commenters said. They ripped on you a lot.
Yeah,
but
I know. That's okay.
That's okay. One guy I think I've been high on a lot is Pat Mahomes.
Yes.
And he really showed up. This is going to be a guy who's going to throw it deep a lot. And, he showed that he's very accurate. And I think, he's a guy that maybe towards the end of the first round, somebody ends up either trading up for him or trading down for him to get this guy as their future quarterback. But like you said, I really liked Deshaun Watson. I thought he was probably the best of the class.
Yeah, and another, just looking at your list, Nate Peterman was a name that I had forgot to write down. What did you like?
I thought he's just been a very solid quarterback. He was great in the Senior Bowl. He was very good at the Combine. I think this is a guy who you draft, third or fourth round to, be a solid backup, and then maybe 3-4 years from now, you end up trading him away, kind of like the Patriots are trying to do for Garoppolo, and Peterman ends up becoming a starting quarterback.
Do you think that Peterman has that potential to maybe be a Kirk Cousins, where maybe he's not?
That's certainly best case scenario,
right?
But I think that is certainly possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about running backs.
Yeah.
And to me, the guy who stood out from everyone else was Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. McCaffrey did everything just
absolutely
so
everything.
Well. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better combine from anybody. When you talk about the other guys, we're gonna talk about the measurables, but McCaffrey just every drill was perfect. When they threw him the ball, caught it perfect. This guy, I think, really solidified himself as that next back in that group after Fournette and Dalvin Cook. He really could be a true offensive weapon and get 30 touches a game at the NFL level.
Yeah, and he did such a good job, and we can't discredit Cook or Fournette.
Right.
They're two. They're bulkier guys. We knew they weren't going to run as good as 40s, but based on their size, great 40 yards.
Great 40 yards, yeah. And the thing with Leonard Fournette was they kept saying, well, he came in overweight. He came in 11 pounds over what he
didn't
was
look
playing
overweight.
He didn't look overweight, and he kept saying in the interview room, don't worry about it. It's water weight. I can lose it. I'm fine. We're good. And he ran a 4.5 40 at 240 pounds, and that's why I got his name down, because he was absolutely impressive. Somebody his size to be able to go out and do those things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of running backs did really good for themselves.
Yes.
I think Donnell Pumphrey really stood out, Marlon Mack. But one guy who I think put himself on the radar is D'Angelo Henderson from Coastal Carolina.
Yes.
I think before this, he was maybe talked about on the bubble from being a 7th-round pick to an undrafted free agent. This guy looked like a running back version of Mike Tolbert.
Yeah, and I believe Tolbert went to that same school. That is a school that has done a great job developing football talent for the next level.
Well, I mean, he looks like just one bowling ball, like a bulkier
Yeah.
guy, kind of like Maurice Jones-Drew
Yeah.
towards the end of his career. But he can also catch the ball, and I think this is a guy that will end up making somebody's roster and end up being a pretty good player.
Yeah, but very, very possible.
Yeah. So at wide receiver, I think we got to talk about this first. Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
John Ross broke Chris Johnson's 40-yard dash record with 4.22. What does this mean to you?
The most impressive thing about this whole thing to me was the fact that he cramped up.
Yeah.
I think has to be, whether it was, I mean, even if he didn't break the record, the fact that he ran sub 4.3 cramping is absolutely impressive.
Yeah.
And when they did an interview with him, they said, hey, he's like, I think I could have ran a little faster.
And I think he could have too.
And it's crazy because he started cramping with about 2 or 3 yards left in his 40-yard dash, which was absolutely amazing. But to that effect, I think we all knew he was going to be extremely fast. So whether this boosted him a little bit or not, I really don't know, just because I think people did anticipate him to be a guy who was going to push that record.
Yeah, and now another guy me and you were talking about, I think really showed up the combine. Maybe not a great 40, but overall just a good showing is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he showed that you don't necessarily have to be the fastest guy to be a really good receiver.
Yeah.
You know, that fits that same mold as Jerry Rice, as a Terrell Owens, guys that weren't necessarily blazers, but had good hands and just got the job done. Now, that's a high expectation for him, you know, all those guys being from smaller schools. But I think he might be one of the guys, probably the best hands at the combine. Just caught everything, did all the drills really well.
Yeah, I do think he had the best hands besides this guy, Chris Godwin from Penn State. I was never very high on him. I think, he really, besides the Rose Bowl, I didn't think he had great film. But he caught everything.
Yeah.
He had a great 40.
Right.
He's in my top 10 now.
The 40 is what kind of surprised everybody because he didn't necessarily look that fast. Now, maybe that's because of the routes that they asked him to run, or just what he was asked to do inside the offense, where they didn't necessarily need him to be that 4.4 guy. I don't know. But yeah, when he showed up at the combine and he ran that 40, the 40 was just the first thing of the day that he impressed at, because everything else was just smooth as butter, and he is now, and I think that goes to show where Penn State has kind of come from the Jerry Sandusky days to now. They're really starting to get a lot of very good talent back, and that speaks to his ability and what that program is doing.
Let's talk about tight ends now. Such a rich class of young prospects here. Let's talk about Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
Ran an unbelievable 40. Looked like a wide receiver
Right.
in a tight end spot.
And that's why I kind of had him a little bit lower on my list. I would definitely move him up now on the tight ends list for sure, after all of you decided to give me some grief about it. But that is still a concern of mine. With him being a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller, is he going to be fast enough to be able to do that against corners? You know, to be able to create separation against corners. If he was inside more, and maybe down on the line as a true tight end, he's going to outrun linebackers.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. The only concern, like I said, is the corners. But this kid had a heck of a day, ran a 4.4, which is incredible for his size. And I think he helped earn himself a little extra dollars there.
Yeah, and I think we got to talk about O.J. Howard too, because he was our consensus number one tight end. He's still our number one consensus tight end. He had such a great showing. Maybe he was being a little overlooked because of Ingram's performance, but still a great showing.
Yeah, Howard just checked all the boxes I think everybody wanted to see in terms of why is this guy the number one tight end, and I think he answered all those questions. If anybody was trying to maybe, you were looking for a reason to knock that guy down, he didn't give you one.
No reason at all. Let's move on to offensive linemen, and I think this guy was being talked about as around the first or second round. He's a first rounder now. That's Garrett Bowles.
Yeah, Bowles was absolutely incredible in everything that he did. He ran well. He tested well. He showed that that hip ability to be able to move and change direction.
Yeah.
That offensive lineman have to be able to do with the defensive line coming through so fast. He's got to be able to move a little bit, and Bulls just impressed everybody.
Yeah. Now another guy he played tackle in college, but he's going to be moving to guard, and I think he did a great job. That's Forrest Lamp.
Yeah, Forrest Lamp was absolutely incredible. Checked every box. I think he was a borderline first round pick heading into the combine. You know, could have went in that late first round, and now has solidified himself as a first round prospect.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's move on to defense now. And the number one prospect, hands down, Myles Garrett. And he was a man amongst boys.
Oh yeah, when you're one of the things that they kept showing during the combine coverage was they kept trying to compare him to Clowney. And the reason being with the size, you can see the size there, but he was not quite as fast, but he was also 10 to 15 pounds heavier. This dude is just a freak athlete. If healthy, he's the best player in the draft, consensus number one. The only reason I think Cleveland wouldn't take him would be because it seems like he doesn't want to go there. He keeps throwing hints as to why he doesn't want to be there.
He apologized.
He did apologize, but then made the comment saying, I want to put my hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback, and Cleveland is a 3-down, 3-4 system.
I think he wants to play for his favorite team, the Cowboys.
Right.
I would want to play for my favorite team.
Well, no, and I understand that, but being a defensive end in the 3-4, you don't necessarily get that ability to put your hand in the dirt and just go get the quarterback, and that's what he wants to do. So I think that'd be the only reason he's not number one. But this kid is the consensus number one prospect in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, and there were so many good tweeners this year. Charles Harris from Missouri, Solomon Thomas, Terrell Basham from Ohio did real good for his stock. But a guy we both like was Trey Hendrickson from Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, this guy was unreal, and for me, he kind of came on the scene last year. With the way TV deals are going, you're getting a lot more of those mid-major games early in the week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and having seen this guy play a couple of times, the kid's unreal. The only thing is he didn't necessarily get the exposure of all the other guys that might have impressed. But this kid is a very good football player. He dominated at the Senior Bowl. I think he might have put, one of those guys you talked about with D'Angelo at the running back position. This is a guy that might have been a 5th or 6th round pick and now put himself into that 2nd, 3rd round possibility.
Reminded me a lot of Ryan Kerrigan.
Yes.
Good comparison there. Let's talk about linebackers. Now, outside linebacker, a guy that did a lot for his stock, kind of solidified himself as a first-round pick, Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, this guy was completely unreal. He tested with the D-line, but then did the linebacker drills as well.
And he did great.
He checked every single box, whether it was trying to show athleticism, catching the ball, showing coverage skills. He did it all. And for him, I mean, like you said, he put himself into that first round category.
Yeah. So at middle linebacker, we expected Reuben Foster to kind of dominate. Of course, he left early due to some circumstances in the hospital. So a guy that kind of stepped up was Raekwon McMillan.
Yeah, this guy is unreal. I had him as my number 2 behind Foster, and until we find out what's going on with Foster, McMillan might stay there, but I think he showed the world really what it is that he can do. There was a lot of questions about what he could do at Ohio State. Was he good because of the talent around him? But this kid just gets after it, and he really showed at the Combine that he can play sideline to sideline, and it doesn't matter where he ends up. He's just going to be a good football player.
Yeah. Now at defensive back, if you love defensive back, this is the year. And I want to talk about a guy who worked with linebackers and was absolutely incredible, and that's Peppers from Michigan.
Yeah, the thing with Peppers is Peppers is the true positionless player, and saying that is not necessarily a bad thing because he might not be he's probably not going to be the number 1 safety in this class, ranked wise, and he wouldn't necessarily be the number 1 outside linebacker either. But in saying that, this is a guy that can play center field as a free safety, can come down on a tight end or a wide receiver in a nickel situation, can blitz, can play the run, or play outside if he really needs to. He can really do it all. And one of the things that I thought, I mean, he's almost like a cross between Earl Thomas and Troy Polamalu. So when you
That's
put
good.
those two names
Yeah.
together, that's an incredible species.
I mean, safety, linebacker, whatever you want to call him, he's a DW, defensive weapon.
That's right.
So now another guy that was just mind-boggling
Yeah.
was Obi Melifonwu
Yeah.
from UConn. I might have butchered that last
Yeah,
name,
no,
but
yeah.
it doesn't matter.
It-
He's amazing.
Right. I was going to say, by the end of next year, we're all going to know
We'll
how to
know
pronounce
his last name.
We'll know his last name. Yeah, I mean, coming into the combine, I think he was overlooked because UConn hasn't done a very good job record-wise the last couple of years. So a lot of their prospects seem to get overlooked. There was a guy, Byron Jones, that came out of there a couple of years ago that did the same
Broke
thing.
the record for broad jump.
Right, and had a really good combine
Yeah.
and put himself in that first round. And this kid's looking like he's going to do the same thing. At 6'4", 220 pounds, when that guy comes screaming down at you, the only comparison that you can really think of, because the only other guy that's that big is Cam Chancellor.
Yeah.
And when you saw how Seattle was without Cam Chancellor compared to with Cam Chancellor, this kid has that type of ability to make that type of an impact.
And he's faster than Chancellor.
Yeah, 4'4", he's unreal.
Think about that. With this group of corners,
Yeah.
there's so many good corners. Sidney Jones, Marshawn Lattimore, Adoree Jackson. All of them kind of showed up. And I think we expected that. But I think one guy that came out of the weeds was Shaquille Griffin from UCF. I was looking at his stock, and they were talking about him being undrafted.
Yes.
I mean, and he was great. He stood there with the big guys and was fantastic.
Yeah, he was a guy. I didn't get to watch a lot of it today, but one of the things that I did hear was about this kid. Mike Mayock was just drooling all over him.
For good reason.
For good reason. And this is a time where a lot of guys like this who don't necessarily get that publicity kind of get that time to shine. And he's one of those kids who took well advantage of, of that time to shine. One name I do want to bring up that I'd mentioned to you, Cordrea Tankersley from Clemson was a guy that I have on my top 10 list, and he went out and for me, the one thing that I was worried a little bit about was how fast he truly was, and he ran a 4.4. That was the only thing that worried me, and this kid, I think, has a good chance to improve and possibly be an early name taken, not first round, but maybe second or third round.
Yeah, this is an incredible year for defensive backs, but overall, I think just a great year for the NFL draft. I feel bad for the upcoming free agents because people are going to be spending their time on the draft. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to go on our website, mysportstop.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more original videos.